Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Pit Pass Network interviews. Today, we are joined by Chad Chastain, part-time driver of the number 91 Chevy in the Xfinity Series for DGM Racing. And so, thanks so much for joining us, Chad.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you just finished racing at Pocono last Saturday. Finished 30th that day. It was your first time racing at Pocono, so I guess walk me through your race.
Yeah, so we started qualified 33rd, I think. So qualified in on time, so that was good. And then we had a transmission leak after qualifying, so we had to go to the bat. Not a big deal. I kind of wasn't wasn't the end of the world to be back there. Not too many spots lost, and just helped me get my feet under me, especially in the draft and all that. It changes how the car drives, center of the corner, and then you gain so much speed down the straightaway. So I was able to take kind of the first stage and learn that and figure that out. So got to run around some guys and make some good quality passes and time my runs. Stayed on the lead lap. That was kind of the goal. First pit stop went good. We were pretty tight, especially off of three all day, and I just could never really get the turn in the car like I wanted. But we did work on it. We made it a little bit better, and then would get loose over the bumps and the tunnel turn, and that's what Pocono is known for, right? Is you can be good in one spot, but you're going to be pretty bad in another, and even worse in the third corner, kind of depending on how you have your car set up and your driving style. So, um, one of those late race restarts, we ended up getting a restart violation for laying back. But that's the one they all wrecked on. So I'll take a restart violation and not knock the nose in, because we were probably half a car length off the car in front of me. I was probably half a car length off their bumper, and they said we were laying back. So I'll take that because we definitely would have killed the car in that instance the way they all stacked up. So brought it home 30th, and not a scratch on it. So couldn't be happier.
Yeah, for sure. And then Pocono is a unique track. It has three different turns and each turn it has different bank and such. So I guess which turn was the most tricky for you?
I feel like we struggled the most off of three. That's kind of where I would get tight every time, even if I would try to run, take a super wide entry and a lot of trail braking down in the corner and slow it up. I just can never really get a great run down the straightaway, I felt like, unless I kind of could try to get somebody crossed up and use the air in a way to get by them. But that was difficult. And then the bumps in turn two, they're violent. You roll down in there and you're off the brake, off the gas. You're trying to get back to the throttle, but if you get back to it too soon, you just snap loose across the bumps, and it's pretty violent in there the first couple laps, and you get to where you can anticipate it. So I I, I feel like I struggled in all of them, but definitely across the bumps in turn two was where I probably would say was where I was getting beat the most.
Yeah, for sure. And then your older brother Ross has a lot of experience at Pocono and actually won a truck race there before. So did he give you some racing advice for that track before your race Saturday?
It was a lot of just good luck, and I've been around it a lot. I've been to Pocono a couple of times now, just watching and helping, whether it was with Nice Motorsports last year or with DGM this year, and just helping Ross in years past there, just small stuff, behind the scenes. So, he said that you're gonna get, don't let, especially turn two, invite you into wrecking yourself across the bumps, or even on entry, you can get in there a little too hard and mess up, and then you lose so much time down the straightaway. Then it just kind of gets you out of your rhythm. So try to stay in a rhythm and try to stay disciplined and let everybody else make the mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And then your sponsor for that race was Mar Delicious Watermelons. I guess explain to the fans at home that don't know it that well what that sponsor's about.
Yeah, so it's all the watermelons. I wouldn't say all, but a majority of the watermelons, and especially the ones on the East Coast that are in stores right now, are from Maryland and Delaware, and it's a really, really, they pump out a lot of tonnage from that area, kind of the peninsula over there. It's very sandy soil, very flat, and pretty good weather once you get into these late May, June, July, early August months. Really good for agriculture and really good for farming watermelons. So They wanted to get that recognition out there. Everybody knows Ross and I are watermelon farmers from Florida, and they know the story and they've seen it. Or at least I think most people do. I kind of live in our own little bubble down here, so I'm here at the farm today. We're preparing for our next Florida watermelon crop. But we don't have anything coming out of Florida or Georgia right now, and it's all coming out of Maryland and Delaware. The stuff that we're shipping, especially to the Northeast, to Maine and New York and Pennsylvania and states like that. So just kind of getting that recognition out there, and they claim they've got the sweetest watermelon, and I had some at a Giant on Friday night, and they were pretty good to me. So I can't argue with it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you mentioned like obviously pretty much all the NASCAR fans know that you and Ross are watermelons from Florida, well, watermelon farmers from Florida. So I guess where'd that passion come from?
So Ross and I are, and our lineage of cousins and everything. We're the eighth generation to farm watermelons, which is really cool. And you hear of three, four, five, maybe six generation farmers, but it's very rare to be eight. Like eight, that's a really high number. That's a really cool thing that I want to keep going as I progress through life and still trying to decide what I want to do when I grow up. So like my granddad's brother, when he got out of the army or he got out of the Navy as a 20-something-year-old, he went back into farming watermelons with his dad in Georgia, and then they moved down to South Florida, and he farmed watermelons himself for 61 years consecutively. And that's just crazy for me to think about, that into his early 80s he was still farming, not a lot, and it was a lot of his son, and they had some really good hired hands in helping him out. But it's really cool that he was able to farm watermelons for 60 years in a row. So just trying to continue that legacy, and what my great granddad was able to get everybody stabilized way back when, and when he first moved the family to Florida to farm. And then my granddad was able to take them from, I mean, he remembers farming with a mule, which is insane for me to think about, to even fathom, to be able to be plowing ground with a mule, but he remembers that as a young kid. And then now that the technology that we have and the things that we're doing to maximize our land and maximize our fertilizer inputs, and try to get the most out of it that we can, and still being good stewards of the land, because I'm farming fields that my dad farmed 20 and 30 years ago, and I want the next generation to be able to do the same thing. So that's kind of what keeps us going.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like the heritage of you guys' watermelon farming days, like going back 8 generations. That's crazy. I guess what's the most challenging part of farming watermelons?
Oh, the absolutely without a doubt is the weather, because you can prepare for it, and you can pray about it, and you can look at almanacs and look at weather reports, but at the end of the day, Mother Nature is going to do what it wants to do, and it's either it's always too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. You can never please a farmer, just like you can never really please a race car driver or please a race fan when it comes to the weather. So um, we 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 do everything we can to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But yeah, the weather, because it can, it's small things like if it doesn't get cold enough over the winter and over the December time, the little bit of a winter that we have here in Florida, if it doesn't get down into the high 20s or even low 30s for a couple of days as a low at night, we have a much higher disease problem. And then if the wind is blowing the wrong way, it can blow disease and blow issues from other farmers onto us. And that's something that you don't really think about, as you drive by, and kind of depending on what state you're in, but especially if you're out in the Midwest, where the corn and soybeans and stuff is so big. Like, it's not just what you do, it's what your neighbors are doing. And but Mother Nature controls how all that affects you. So that's our biggest issue, but there's nothing you can do about it but prepare.
Yeah, for sure. And then is it often an all day event to farm watermelons?
All day, all night, 7 days a week for um Should I think we go 7 days a week. We'll take a few days off, but pretty much 7 days a week from Thanksgiving to Memorial Day because we're planting rye and we're prepping ground and I'm working on tractors and I'll take off for Christmas and the Daytona 500 and Easter with the family. That's about it. So it is a 7 days a week, and we'll get out there at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and you don't go home till dark. And if it's raining or if there's something that has to be done, I've stayed till midnight plenty of times and drove through McDonald's on the way home and got right back up and did it again the next day. And it's you really have to love it, and I do. So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's crazy, like how much time commitment it takes for that. But I'm just wondering, Ross, he drives for a Cup team. Does he reside in North Carolina right now?
Yep. So he lives there, relatively close to the shop. Their shop is in Concord, um, in North Carolina. He lives up there full time, and he'll come home for some big holidays and some stuff. But yeah, he's pretty much full time up there.
Okay, and then I guess when it's not the race weekend, how often does like throughout the week, like how often does Ross stop by in Florida to help with the watermelon farms?
So he's full time up there. He doesn't really come back to be on the farm because you have to be so integrated in it and really know what's going on, just like with any business. If you're not there in the day in and day out, you kind of get lost in the small changes of equipment and all of our stuff is older and it has its own little trick to it that I know all of it. My dad knows all of it, but Ross has been living in North Carolina full time now for 10 years, a little more than that. So he's been really focusing on racing and doing his part to help the industry of promote watermelons and promote, American grown watermelons, whether it's Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Maryland, and Delaware, like I just did this weekend, or even when as the months go on and late into September, we'll be harvesting out of Indiana and Illinois and Kentucky a little bit. So his job and his role in the industry is to help sell the most watermelons, and we just got to grow them.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess the race weekends you're not available to water the or plant the watermelons. Do you, who do you have look over the farms?
So my uncle has been really instrumental in helping us do that. When it comes to like the Daytona 500, or if I go spot for Ross at a given weekend, but generally, it's flying out on Friday and it's trying to get back on Sunday night or Monday early and trying to minimize that time I'm gone. But really, we try to stack it where any races I'm running is over the summer and into the fall, so I can truly really prepare for the races, and I'm not just jumping into a car that I'm not ready to, because it takes so much to put these deal together, and everybody in the series all the way to the back is these guys aren't there by accident. Everybody likes to say that money buys you a ride, but you still got to be good. You still got to make the race, and um, so I don't take those opportunities lightly. And when they do come, I want to be prepared. So I try to minimize the time I'm gone to that summer and fall months.
Yeah, for sure. And then Ross does the trademark of a celebration of smashing a watermelon after winning each race. So was it his idea to do that after every win, or was it yours?
So we did it after the first race that he won at Vegas in the Xfinity car a couple of years ago. They did it on the front stretch. Well after the race, it was Saturday evening. They did it, and it's kind of just grown from there. So it's a really cool way to celebrate, and we all love it in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really cool celebration, iconic now too. And then
Yep.
uh and then going back to your Xfinity races, you've competed in four so far this season. Atlanta, Dover, Nashville, and the before mentioned Pocono. I guess all four tracks are kind of different in like layout and such. So which do you feel most closely relates to your driving style?
Yeah, so Nashville, we got practice and qualifying, which was really beneficial to me. I feel like we qualified 22nd, so really happy with that. And the race just went good overall for us, and really didn't have any major issues. We finished right about where we thought we were going into the weekend, but and I felt really comfortable there. But I would say Dover, everybody that I talked to beforehand was like, "Oh man, it's going to be super physically demanding. You're just going to be wore out after the race." And with the G loads that you take when you drive off into turn one, and when the car compresses, it's gonna really throw you into the seat and be just like it's gonna be hot and all this. And but once I got used to it, probably after the end of the first stage, and I was able to reset and everything and get going. I think at Dover, I probably made the most quality passes that I've made out of any race that I've ran on trucks or Xfinity now. Just being able to set guys up and run the top into the corner and then diamond it for the exit and get a straight run up off was really good and made a lot of quality passes. So, which we were already several laps down, so it didn't matter, but it was still a good experience. So, I would definitely say Dover I've been the most comfortable at by the end of the race.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's pretty notable that because Dover is a challenging track. They call it the Monster Mile not for nothing. So it's really impressive that that's your best one. Um, and then and then all four of those races were for DGM racing. So I guess how did that opportunity come about?
So I've known the folks at DGM just being in the garage and you see them around, you say hey, and as Ross has ran with different teams, and I've kind of followed him just spotting when we go to road courses or when we go to when we used to go to Iowa, I would spot for Ross when we were running there. So that was really cool. And I would just meet people, and a lot of times it's during rain when it's raining or something. You kind of jump from holler to holler, just shaking hands and saying, "Hey, I'm Chad. I'm here. Anything I can do to help. I want to be in the sport in some capacity. I was never really sure what that role would be. And then last year, Ross started running some Xfinity races for him and just kind of opened the door. Really got to know them. They're out of Florida, so it's nice. They're about an hour and a half from our office, just right up the road. So it's not bad. I can slip away 2 or 3 days a week and run up there to the shop and help them just assemble cars from the past weekend, prepare cars for the next weekend, and it just helps me learn about them and okay, we're gonna make some cars are fine thread bolts for the jack bolts, and some are coarse thread. So it's just good to know what car you're in, and because that makes a big difference in a if you're making a 1 round adjustment or a 2 round adjustment, what you're asking for in the car. So it's good to know that going into the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And then your teammate for DGM Racing is Josh Williamson. He's a very experienced driver. He has over 170 Xfinity starts. So do you lean on him heavily for racing advice?
I do. Josh has been somebody that Ross raced with back home here in Punta Gorda. It's kind of cool to come back together like that. Just ironically how it worked out. But Josh has been really good and at accomplishing his goal of he knows that they're not going to go out and win the race, but the goal is to go run, compete, and finish in the top 10. But the biggest thing is to not be tearing up equipment, and Josh does a really really good job of that of pushing them when the right time. But if somebody else is faster, let them go. Don't burn your stuff up. You'll get them later in 20 or 30 laps when they've done burnt the right front off of it or something because they're pushing hard the whole run. So I've really leaned on him to how he thinks the race is going to play out, how he thinks certain drivers will handle situations, and what I can do to either pass them or to not get passed by him because he's raced with all these guys a lot that we're racing with right now. So Josh has been a really, really big help in getting me up to speed in these cars.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool, the Florida element where you guys are both from Florida and the team's from Florida. So I feel like that's very cool that that went full circle there. And then I guess now, for the fans at home that don't know you that well, I guess walk me through your background, like before you got into the NASCAR scenes and what got you into racing.
Yeah, so down here in Florida, there's not a ton of racing compared to other states. because the way the landscape is, and the way that the that everybody seems to be moving to Florida, we're losing racetracks. It seems like left and right, but and they're pretty spread out. We had one track that was 30 minutes from our house growing up, but the next one's an hour and a half, and after that is 3 and 4 hours. So um, we grew Ross and I both grew up racing pro trucks, which are kind of a anomaly to Florida, but they're it's a metric chassis with a crate motor in it. Either back in the day they were the 603 crate motors, or now everybody's running the 602s. So we both started in that, and that's something that we could get our feet wet with and learn. And my dad and my family felt like they were a lot safer than Bandoleros or go-karts or Legends cars, just with how small those are. But they were still running the same speed, and they were still hitting the wall just as fast, but a lot less crumple zone, if you want to call it that, and a lot less barrier between you and a wall and you and a tire. So Ross and I both started when we were each 12. Ross is 6 years older than me, so he started, and he was my hero growing up. I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, watching my brother out there race and win races and get out and celebrate. And we'd go home and we'd work on them. The next day on Sunday, we would watch the cup race, and then we'd work on the pro truck, and it evolved into limited late models, and then from there it's a little bit of super late model racing, and now somehow we're running Xfinity races, and I still don't know how it happened, honestly.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then, if you can remember, what was your very first car number back in the day?
36. So my dad raced in the early 90s, just for fun, and had some buddies that had cars. And as life goes on and you have kids and you're trying to grow 400 acres of watermelons, it wasn't the right time, so they all kind of independently sold everything over a couple of years. And then Ross wanted to get into it, and actually ended up buying a pro truck. And this family was moving to a different class. I think they were going to Sportsman's maybe at the time. They were the Van Dieventers are really good friends of ours now. Got to know them through the racing. We buy a pro truck from them, and their number was 36. So we just was too lazy to change the number. Didn't really see a need to, and Ross went and raced as the number 36 pro truck, and we've kept that number ever since. So there was no real value or sentimental value to it beforehand. It was just pure laziness of not wanting to change the number.
Yeah, it's very cool. I feel like NASCAR fans are just always curious what drivers' first numbers are in their careers and such like that. So that's really cool. And then um I guess Ross, we talk about Ross a lot, and he's your older brother, and usually the older brothers have the younger brothers back a lot. So how big of an impact has Ross had on your life?
It's I would definitely wouldn't probably be racing, and definitely wouldn't be at the level that I'm at now without Ross's support. He's been grinding it out in NASCAR, moving up there in 2012 to start running the trucks at Bobby Dotter and the '08 truck, and has been just scrapping and putting deals together. And that's what everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, but Ross is one of the older ones in the garage, and there's not many that hang around long enough, for 10 years and finally make it to the Cup Series, and then are in winning Cup rides. And it doesn't take them 10 years. It seems like a lot of guys, either they catch the right breaks and they get the right support, and they're into a Cup ride at 18, 19, 20, 22 years old. Ross was 28 or 29 when he finally got there. So just having that inspiration of, if you keep pushing and you keep doing the right things, and you make your team owners happy, and you make your sponsors happy, and you drive motor homes for other people, and you put in the work and drive your own show cars, and save $1 here and $1 there, and do everything you can, that eventually it'll all work out. So it's really cool that he's been able to make that work. And that's just a really inspirational deal of, if you want it bad enough and you don't go, well, it doesn't work, I'll go back to farming. If you have the mentality of, I'm going to make this to make it work and be a successful NASCAR driver. That not saying that it will happen 100%, but if you're good enough, it'll happen for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's like a Ross is probably one of the best examples of someone that with that much grit and determination able to just build up and slowly but surely and now being up in the Cup Series. That's a really cool story. And then uh you made your NASCAR debut out of the top three series in August 2021 at Watkins Glen in the Truck Series in the number 45 Nice Motorsports Chevy. Did you have any road course experience beforehand?
Nope. So that was gonna be a race that Ross was running. I'd already planned to go up there just to spot because I was gonna be spotting in the buses when he was running the 42 Cup car, and Ross was it was full planned of him running it, and I had no intentions of really running it, and then but that was the regular season finale, and because Ross was getting points in the Cup Series, he was not eligible to compete in that race. And Ross and I are fairly similar in body size and how we liked our seats to be growing up because I always just ran whatever he had, so I got used to it. And I think they found out on Tuesday, or maybe Monday, that Ross wasn't allowed to race, and I already knew Cody Efall and Phil Gould and Wally Rogers and all those guys and Al Neese at Neese Motorsports. I'd had a good relationship with them. They're really, really a great group of people, and I already knew them, and they liked me, and I knew the sponsor really well and had helped them with stuff in the past. And I had just got home from the field. It was probably 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and Ross gives me a call, which we talk fairly regularly, and we kind of chit chat for a minute, and finally goes, "Okay, you want to run the 45 this weekend?" And I was like, "What?" I honestly thought it was a joke, just didn't really think it was going to happen, and I'd already kind of accepted that I wasn't going to run in trucks or Xfinity or Cup. That really wasn't the way my life was going. And he's like, "No, they want you to race it." So I was like, "Okay, well, I guess we'll be driving up in the morning." And I sat in the seat Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. and now I've ran 6 or 7 races now. It's crazy how it's happened.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. And then ever since that you've had 4 career Xfinity starts and 5 career truck starts. So you gotten your feet wet in both of those series. So you experienced both of those cars. So how much different for the fans that don't know the difference that well, how much different do you feel the Xfinity cars race than the truck cars?
Uh, I don't have a great analogy besides the cars turn generally a lot better than the trucks do, just because of the side force and the way the aero is, and that's the biggest thing. Is the trucks are a big box and they have a ton of downforce and a ton of side force, and so they're really stuck to the track, and I feel like you have to hustle them really, really hard, and then when you make a mistake, it's bigger. They're a lot harder to catch, it seems like, from my experience. So the Xfinity cars are a little more, I feel like, of your resemblance of your typical, late model or pro truck kind of street stock, what I'm used to running, the way the aero works and all that. So it still plays a big part, but I feel like the trucks are affected a lot more by aero, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And then last season, one of those your truck starts was at your home track of Homestead, Miami in Florida. So what did it mean to be able to have that opportunity to race in front of the hometown fans?
That was awesome. It was right after we'd have been hit by the hurricane, and everybody was kind of just trying to get back to normal. Our area was devastated in September with one of the biggest and most powerful hurricanes and most destructive hurricanes that's ever hit the U.S. And the hurricane went right over my house, and it was the next day, and the weeks and the months after that was just total devastation. Fort Myers Beach it was wiped out. There was nothing left. I've got friends that work in heavy equipments, and they were down there trying to rebuild bridges and trying just to clear the roads, and restaurants were gone. the concrete foundation was gone. Everything was gone. Houses are gone. People were lost their lives. People lost relatives. So really just a heartbreaking deal. So to be able to put that deal together and say, okay, for this one day, we can all focus on just going racing and getting back to what we love. And it's not ignoring the issues, and it's not ignoring the reality of the situation that we're still only, well, I think it was 2 months removed from the hurricane. But for just a little bit of time, everybody can just sit back, you know, relax for a little bit, watch some racing. We had a good day in the truck. Ross had a really good day on Sunday. And then it's okay, Monday or Tuesday, kind of whenever you get home, time to get back to work, going back, cleaning everything up. But it was really cool to see everybody to come out and support it, and to support the track of let's try to just band together, and we'll all get back to normal eventually.
Yeah, that's a very awesome story there. Of just being from just supporting the state of Florida during that time and helping them out. But speaking of the state of Florida, um, the notable drivers from the state of Florida that race in NASCAR is most notable is the Allisons, Bobby, Davy, and Donnie. So I guess what does it mean to share your home state with that legendary racing family?
Ooh, if if anybody ever puts us in the same sentence as names like that, then we're doing something right. 'Cause that's the icons of the sport. And it'd be awesome to ever even match stats, but not a whole lot of people that made it to that level are from Florida. So it's pretty cool too that Ross has made it and has a successful career, like the Allisons, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then going back from last fall, obviously this probably one of the most iconic moments in racing history was that ride wall at coined the Hail Melon at Martinsville. I feel like you've been asked this a lot now, but uh, were you at the track when that happened?
Nope. So we were. I've been gone a bunch, kind of with different races and trade shows that we have in the watermelon industry, and just I kind of just needed a weekend at home, and because I knew we were going to Phoenix regardless, just to celebrate a great season that Ross and Trackhouse had. So I knew we were already going to Phoenix, and I was sitting at home and watching the race with some friends, and I still watch it now, and especially as we'll get closer to Martinsville, it'll get talked about a bunch, and I'll watch it. But I still don't believe it's real, even though I know it is. It doesn't look real, and it's the most fake real thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's definitely the perfect way to describe that. I would say the same thing there. And I guess over your career, what racetrack's been your favorite you've raced on so far?
So there's DeSoto Speedway down here in Bradenton, Florida. Now it's the Freedom Factory. As Cletus McFarland has bought it, and the really cool things he's doing to help keep motorsports going in this area. Uh, but he's put a lot of money into it, and it's really cool to see that. So it's a big 3/8, if you want to call it that. Fairly high banking, really rough, especially around the bottom. And you could, especially when new people would come there, you could push them down there on the bumps and kind of manipulate their race line to hit them, and it would upset their truck or their car. And that's we won a lot of races there, and I got a lot of really really great memories, and met a lot of great people at that track. So definitely DeSoto Speedway is still at the top of my list.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then what racetrack that you haven't gotten to experience yet would you want to race the most at in the future?
I got to say Daytona. We grew up because we're farming watermelons in the spring. We never went to the 500, but as groups of family, as we were all growing up until Ross started racing. But before that, we would always go to the 4th of July race every year. So it was really cool when Ross got to run his first Xfinity race there, and then the first Cup race there that he ran, and then the first 500. So I would definitely say Daytona is at the top of the list, just for the sentimental value of being the 6-year old, the 5-year old in the stands watching Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. race there. And I remember when Jeff won back. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember watching him win. Just kind of that for whatever reason sticks in my mind. But definitely want to go run a Daytona at some point.
Yeah, you mentioned about older drivers like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson. Uh, During your childhood, who would you say was your favorite driver growing up?
Jeff Gordon, without a doubt.
That's very cool. Is there any like meaning behind that, or just the name, I guess?
I think just because I was born in 1998, so when I started getting old enough to realize what was going on, he was the man, and he was the one winning races, and I guess I like the number 24 for whatever reason.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely one of the most iconic drivers out there. And then I guess you mentioned that you're a spotter as well. I guess how long have you been doing that for?
That's how I've managed to stay relevant and in the sport and just being around. Is I was spotting for Ross when they would first let me when he was running, especially at like Iowa Speedway. We'd go out there because it's a standalone event, so I'd go spot for the Xfinity car, and been doing that since I was 18, and since they'll let you do it. So been doing that or just working behind the scenes, helping them push cars through tech and that kind of stuff, just to because if you're not there, you're forgotten about. And that's definitely true.
Yeah, for sure. And then pre-race, do you? I know some drivers have it, but do you have a specific routine pre-race?
I try to find stuff to keep myself busy. I feel like the you can definitely overthink and psych yourself out of a race. So anything I can do to stay busy, whether it's meeting with farmers that we've brought to the track and seeing how we're able to promote watermelons and promote agriculture as a whole, or meeting with team owners and drivers and just kind of cutting up. And we'll talk about, ironically enough, it always comes back to farming and watermelons. Everybody's always really surprised at how much work it takes to grow a watermelon and what all we have to do. So that's a good way for me to de-stress because I truly love agriculture. I love spreading the message with everybody. So it's really good that I'm able to do that, and that takes my mind off the race. And then next thing I know, they're singing the national anthem, and I'm jumping in, and it's time to go racing.
Yeah, for sure. And then actually, like even before race day, like even the week coming to it, how do you prepare then too? Do you like use iRacing and such?
Yeah, I racing a lot. I'll jump on with Ross, and we've got some friends that are much better than us on there, and they can help with my line and being consistent and you know brake pressure and braking points and where you're picking up the throttle and stuff. So they'll help me prepare and a lot of um, just being at the shop, being with Mario and Nick and Joe and those guys there. It helps me get in the right mindset and keeps me disciplined as far as my eating and what I'm eating for lunch and dinner and how much water I'm drinking because it's a lot easier to stay hydrated when you're inside and there's a water bottle to sit next to you. Whereas if you're out in the field or you're doing something else, you can kind of forget about it for a little bit, and it takes a couple days to get caught back up on everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like you have an advantage for hydration because of being a watermelon farmer, or these watermelons are full of water too.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely will eat lots of watermelon before the race because they're obviously have a lot of water in them, but just the sugar and the other nutrients that are in them helps keep your stomach and everything really well balanced and where you don't have those highs and those lows during the race and keeps you very mellowed out.
Yeah, for sure. And then what would you say, you've experienced a lot of racing throughout your career. I guess what would you say has been your favorite racing memories thus far?
Oof. Ooh, I gotta say, probably winning the championship in 2013, and at DeSoto Speedway, we won, or no, I think it was 15. I don't remember what year it was, but we won the Pro Truck and the Pro Late Model Championship at DeSoto Speedway. And a lot of those, sometimes we'd have to take both vehicles to the track and go try to compete, and that's it's very taxing on because my dad and my granddad and myself basically working on everything, and really cool that we were able to put that year together to go, running 17 races. And I think we finished top three in 14 or 15 of them. So just the end of the year of seeing that it was all the late nights and all the early mornings that we'd work on stuff, and it was all worth it.
Yeah, for sure. That's very awesome. And then as a kid, have you ever thought of like doing something else than racing in your future, or was your mindset all racing as a kid?
It's always either been watermelons or racing. If you have too many backup plans, then you'll sell yourself short and not push for a goal. So that's truly what I believe.
And then did you try any other sports throughout your childhood as well? Like maybe like for your high school team, or was it all racing as well?
I did a little bit of soccer, when I was real young before middle school, but I don't know how many people have seen Ross or I, but we don't have the physical stature to go play football or baseball, and we weren't fast enough to play soccer to keep that going. So we realized our hand-eye coordination is what our strong suit was. So we were able to get into racing, and we got lucky.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess speaking of sports, like is there any sports you enjoy watching other than racing?
I like watching football, and my best friend growing up, he played baseball, so I got a little bit into it, and we have a thing where we like to text each other dumb questions. If I'll, especially if I'm sitting in a hotel room or something, I'll be flipping through and see a Red Sox game or something. I'll text him all the dumb questions that I have, and he answers. And when he watches a race, he texts me all the dumb questions he has during the race, and I'll respond and get back to him. So we definitely a fair weather Miami Dolphins fan and a fair weather Red Sox fan. So when they're going good, I'll watch a game here and there, and when they're not, I'm not gonna lie, I don't even turn it on.
For sure. And then going back to racing, as far as like car handling, if you couldn't have your car like neutral, like handling wise, would you prefer to race a car loose or tight?
It really depends on the track and what the vehicle is. If it's a pro truck at DeSoto or at Punta Gorda or at New Smyrna, I'd rather have it a little on the loose side. But at Pocono, where your speeds are so high and I'm still learning these things and learning how far you can yaw it out. Definitely have me a little on the tight side, and I can let me work up to it. So it's a lot easier to wreck if it's loose. But once I figured it out, I'm sure I'll like a little bit of a loose car just because you can hustle them a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And then as far as like the turns, are you more of a hard on entry or slower on entry type of driver?
I read a thing. I jumped in a guy's Sportsman several years ago just to run some test laps in it for him. And it said what did it say? In like a in like a gazelle and off like a lion or something like that. So I've always had the mentality of you can hit somebody on entry, but you're not going to get very far because at some point you got to turn. So be a little easier on your entry and set it up for the exit because that's where all the real time is gained, and that's where your ability to make a pass is going to be is on exit. So definitely driving off is what my strong suit is.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess in racing, what would you say is your greatest strength and your greatest weakness?
Um, Hard to say, but I think being from Florida definitely lends and working outside every day and sweating a bunch. It definitely lends me to being able to not get too hot in the car and not let you know if your feet are starting to blister a little bit or something, don't get too distracted by it because you know that okay, well it's going to hurt for a little bit, but it's going to hurt whole lot more if I lose focus and back this thing into the wall. So just trying to stay calm and stay collected in the heat of the moment and not lose focus is probably the biggest thing. And that I feel like I have a little bit of an upper hand on against other guys, and biggest weakness is probably just seat time and trying to learn these things and in a racing environment and not getting a ton of practice doesn't help that, but not a whole lot you can do besides just go try to get more races.
Yeah, for sure. And then outside of racing, I guess what do you enjoy doing in your free time, like even or like outside of racing and watermelon farming?
It's gonna sound cliche, but focus on getting back in another race car. You know, whether that's putting deals together or trying to grow more watermelons or promote the industry as a whole. Because I know that whatever I do to to a high tide raises all boats. So anything I can do to help the agriculture industry and learn about it and learn what everybody's looking for, then that's going to get me back in a race car faster. And that's what I love the most.
Yeah, for sure. And here's a question, do you have do you own it or do you Ross or any of your family, do you guys own any pets?
Ross has a dog that we got from a dog had wandered up on the farm and had a litter, and Ross has one of those puppies, but I don't have anything, and my family can attest that I will probably never have a pet. Just we're just gone too much in all reality.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess your schedule coming up, do you have any races lined up?
Nothing for right now. Working on a few things, maybe for IRP to jump back in a truck, but nothing solidified at this moment.
And then I saw something interesting. Your birthday is actually the same day as Halloween. So does that automatically make that your favorite holiday?
Makes it my favorite day of the year, but I wouldn't say Halloween is my favorite holiday. But definitely when you can combine the birthday and Halloween, it's definitely my favorite day of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And then I found a fun fact relating to your birthday. Did you know that you shared the same birthday as Christopher Columbus?
I did not know that. Huh. I've never really looked into it.
Yeah, just a fun fact I found researching because I like knowing a lot of people's same birthdays of other people, so that's very cool with
Huh.
that.
Yeah, I'll have to. I didn't know that. It's cool.
And then I guess we close on some fun questions I have now. I guess the first one is have have you ever been overseas before?
Yep. So we in the winter. So over the winter and the very early spring, we'll actually import some watermelons from Guatemala just to keep the supply coming. So I've been down there just to see their operation, to kind of learn about it. And when you see what they're doing and the resources that they have and how it's different than what we have, it's not apples to apples, but I can look at it and go, oh, they're doing X, Y, and Z, and I might not do Y, but I can do X and Z to improve my operation here on the farm. So that's pretty much the extent of my overseas travels is for trying to learn and be a better farmer.
And then the next question, who is your all-time favorite Disney character?
Hmm. Is it bad if I say I don't know because I don't watch a lot of movies?
No,
Uh,
that's fine, yeah.
yeah. I don't really know. I don't really have one I could rattle off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's all good. And then the next one is what is your all-time dream vacation?
Ooh, definitely going to be. I've always wanted to go to Australia, and if I could line that up with the F1 race down there, I think that'd be really cool to go do and get to experience both the country and the countryside, and then also go to the race, see an F1 race in person would be awesome to get to do one day.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then would you prefer bone-in or boneless wings and then favorite flavor?
Bone in definitely because boneless are just chicken nuggets, and that's a hill I will die on. I like chicken nuggets, but I like a just call it a chicken nugget. It's not a boneless wing. So bone in wings, lemon pepper, not too much breading.
And then what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
I just had a new one. at a little place that we go to every Thursday when I'm up at the DGM shop here in Florida. But I don't know what it was called. I pointed and said, "Surprise me," and they brought it to me. But it was some kind of sundae with caramel on it. It was something that they were working on there. So call me back next week, and I'll be able to tell you what it is.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and then what's your favorite or do you play any instruments?
I do not. I'm not coordinated for that. So I've got some buddies that can play the guitar and can sing. So we'll hang out sometimes and have a fire when there's 2 weeks that it's cool enough to here in Florida. So we'll sit around and I really enjoy listening to them play, but I not something I was gifted with.
And then I guess staying at the musical realm, do you have a favorite music genre and then your favorite artist and sound of that genre?
Yeah, definitely 90s country and give me some Alan Jackson. That's gonna be my jam.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a great pick there. Um, so I guess closing out now, everyone at Pit Pass Network enjoys to donate to a charity after each interview. So is there a charity you'd like to highlight for us?
I don't know what it would be specifically, but just FFA and what they're doing with farmers and to bring future farmers into the industry. You know, with FFA and 4-H and all those programs, there's some really good ones that we support through the watermelon industry, and we kind of do a different one every year. So anything in that realm is good with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chad, for taking the time to for this interview and wish the best of luck the coming races you do in the coming years and such. And yeah, thanks so much, Chad.
All righty, yes, sir. Thank you.